Thank you, Cynthia. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight myself for a minute so I can see.
Um,
Um,
I sorry, I forgot to mention that we will be taking a couple breaks throughout the hour for people to ask questions. So if you put your questions in the Q&A, we'll have those ready when Elizabeth is ready to answer them. Thank you.
thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm still seeing the journal page, so I'm going to pop that out of the way. And hopefully now you can see me in my lovely my AI generated Pacific Northwest Library. I had to do something to clear out the Christmas clutter in the background. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm going to spend this hour sharing some inspiration, some simple guidance for documenting your garden in sketches, in words, in a journal or notebook that is going to be your own experience, your own personal uh, catch-all for recording your experience with your garden. And I really want to emphasize that because this is not as much about art and being an artist and being right and mastering complicated skills. This is about slowing down and connecting to your garden and having some confidence in drawing and writing and recording your gardening experience. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump right in with a slideshow. I have some images I'm going to share that are photos. I'm going to talk a little bit about them, and then I will do a little bit of a demo, and then together we will hopefully work on a journal page. You'll only need a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper, and if you don't have those things, it'll be just as fun to watch. So I want to talk about words and pictures. That's what your journal is going to include. And pictures, they don't have to be drawings. This first slide is drawings. There are no words. It's simple drawings, actually tracings of herbs. The person who did this has just set the herbs down on the paper and taken a pen to trace around their shapes and maybe add a little extra line work to capture the variety of the herbs. But in doing this, they also connected. They got to know some details that may have been overlooked if the person hadn't taken the time to to slow down and really notice. So we have pictures and then we have words, right? So here are some beautiful pictures that were drawn and a lot of words, a lot of words. So if you're not comfortable drawing a lot, shift to your language. Descriptive language, observations, free form writing, anything you want to write to capture your observations and your experience. You all are approaching this from a gardening perspective, so there'll be certain types of lists and data that are pretty unique to gardening. So we'll get into that as well. Again, pictures and words. These slides are meant to inspire you and show you the variety of ways that are uniquely individual for recording. And here is a lovely watercolor, color pencil, pen and ink drawing down the center of the shoreline. And then all of those words actually encompass about a week of time. So this person drew one picture And then each paragraph is a little week and a day in a week. So something to think about as you're watching and observing a garden grow, things in your garden changing. You can definitely shift to words and you don't have to do a lot. You can simplify it, but be consistent and regular with it as a practice in observing change and growth. Here's a great balance of pictures and words and a really clever layout. And I want to spend a minute looking at this because it has a lot of information. And I can see where this would be a great way to record many aspects of a changing garden or the planning of a garden. There's a date, a day, and a date, a lot of data in the top left where temperature is recorded, the altitude, the longitude and latitude, the weather conditions, and then a lot of really great observations. So there's a variety of observation here. The clover down at the bottom, or the Mexican plant down at the bottom, has 30 inches is the height of the tallest ones. Um, the butterfly, the monarch, below the monarch is a great diagram of the pattern the wings made as it glides. And this person actually counted the number of flaps between each glide. So again, there is no right or wrong. It's what catches your attention and inspires you to capture in your book or your journal. And I'll get to that as well. I love this simple sketch of mushrooms. And I love lots of things about this. One is this is just pencil used with shading and lights and darks of the pencil to create these two mushrooms on a wire bound stack of looks like old card catalog cards. And this is so sweet to me because it looks manageable. Like I think one of the things about keeping a nature journal is or a gardening journal, is you're creating a habit. And it's hard to do that. Hard habits are hard. So keeping your objective manageable and not too overwhelming so that you can do it is very important. Not going to talk a lot about this one, but it's one of my favorites. A bird watcher, a birder, used language to describe how these birds sound. Pictures, words. So another thing these slides is illustrating is you can have a journal that's pretty subject specific. If you don't want to capture everything, you can narrow it down. Um, so with a garden, maybe you want to focus on just one aspect of the garden, maybe the planning of it, or maybe certain types of your garden. And again, there's a huge realm of gardening, vegetable gardening, perennial gardening, the planting and planning, the fertilizing. Think about what really interests you most and what you really feel strongly about recording and narrow in on that. And then as the years go by, if you like to do this, you can branch out and do different things. So again, lots of words and pictures. And I like this slide because there is a photo of an owl, not a drawing, a photo. And photos are pictures. So you can take photos from your camera phone and print them out on regular office paper and clip them out with scissors and put them in your book with a glue stick. And that's very satisfying and very quick if you don't feel like drawing. And I think it's a really nice way to really capture something that you feel is difficult to draw. And these are just simple drawings I've done. And witch hazel, if you think about witch hazel, how complex it seems, the blooms, it can be overwhelming. Yet, if you trust your eyes and your hand and your brain, just like you trust them when you're driving a car, you see, you process, you carefully react. That's what our simple drawing exercises tonight are going to teach us. You can capture just enough quite easily and quickly to tell the picture, tell the story. So this, I see the word witch hazel on it, and it's witch hazel. And I wouldn't call that fine art or perfect or right or wrong. And again, these are more illustration type drawings I've done that I just wanted to include as nice examples of pictures and words. And words, I love words. I love the scientific names for things because they're usually really long words. And I love letters and I love writing and I love words. So these scientific names really get me excited and I like to include them. Often, I think it's helpful if we break things down. And this is a beautiful example of a flower that has been broken down into parts. And that colored side of the flower is actually watercolor, but you could just as easily start with a photo of a flower and a photo of your flower or your plant, a photo that you clip and glue down and finish with pen. And why bother doing this? Well, it's fun. It puts you in the moment and it creates a memory that we don't always obtain as quickly as we would by hearing or reading. When we draw, we really cement things quickly. So instead of making notes, if you draw, it'll help you remember it better. And that's a fact. And we just have a few more of these breaking things down. I mentioned breaking things down to just notice what they look like from different angles and what the different parts look like. And it's amazing what happens when you spend the time to do this. And again, there's no watercolor on this. There's no color at all. It's just a pen, some drawings, and words. And it doesn't need a lot because I guarantee the person looking at this who created it is going to be um, flooded with that memory of connecting to the sand dollar by that act of noticing and drawing and also writing a little. Um, that experience is being lodged into the brain and is easily recalled when you have the visual cue. So, pictures and words. We'll talk a little more about both, but again, these are examples of lovely ways they're incorporated. This has a haiku, and haiku is a very simple poetry form that's quite beautiful and very nature oriented. Um, I love haiku, and I wish I had more time to talk about haiku tonight, but I don't. But poems and quotes from other people can be included in your gardening and documentation. So this person is an amazing illustrator, and also all this data is just incredible. Yeah, very beautiful, very rich in information. And I have to include the garden slug, right? Actually, this is the banana slug. So, pencil drawing, some labeling, a little bit of information. It's just such a story, picture and words. No words. It's a beautiful uh, ink drawing of a prickly pear. And again, this is one of my favorites. It's not gardening per se, but it's a list of birds viewed in someone's backyard. And I love this because those are binoculars in the lower left. The person drew some binoculars and they drew their bird book. And then they made a list, all these glorious birds they noticed. So if that's something you can do regularly, listing what you notice in your garden each Saturday morning, keep it manageable and create a habit out of it. Again, drawing. And this drawing is a line drawing, and it is something we're going to do tonight. If you have a pen and a piece of paper, if not, you can watch me. This is a line drawing. And this is an example of how you trust your eyes and your brain and your hand to portray something. And it always looks like it should. Here we go, some nice words around that line drawing, which happen to have some watercolor added to it. More complex, more artistic as far as skill level, but another example of macro and micro. A macro view being the wide angle lens. You're capturing much more than just the small micro view. So the capture of the tree, but then zooming in on the actual bark. Lists, words, descriptive language, some catkins that have been drawn, a cone. drawings, and photos, pictures, breaking things down into smaller parts, shifting back and forth from a little bit of line drawing, a little bit of descriptive language, back and forth to tell the story of what this person noticed and observed and felt like portraying. And flowers with a little bit of watercolor and a little bit of collage. This page has pieces of the seed packets cut out and glued into the journal. And that's great, you know, keeping a little pair of scissors and a glue stick with your pen and pencil and your journal is a great thing to have on hand. Different components of the bleeding heart. There's so much to see in a single plant. I mean, there are the leaves, the flowers, the way it branches out. These aren't super botanically correct drawings. They're drawing what I saw. I put my hand to the paper. I trusted my eyes and my hand to make the lines and shapes. Are they perfect? Are they super realistic? No, but they're close enough. And houseplants. You know, if you don't see anything inspiring right now in your yard, turn to your house and look at your house plants and think of all the different ways they can be drawn and noticed, the different angles. And we're going to get to the end of this. And this is just very simplistic drawings of the components of a flowering quince and then a bird. Birds are very hard for me to draw. I'm still working on my birds, but this was a very quick demo I did. So and again, here I go judging it. We should not be judging our work. We should be rejoicing in it and telling ourselves it's okay. All of it's okay. This is our personal experience. We're not getting graded. We don't have to show it to anyone. Just enjoy the process. So that is it for images at this time. And I'm going to pause to see if there are any questions I can answer before we move into the next part of our webinar. Can I
Oh,
take any
sorry,
questions?
there
Yeah,
were no questions yet, so we can just keep moving.
wonderful. Then I will go forward into I'm going to talk a little bit more about supplies, but I would like to go through some simple drawing exercises for fun. And if you have a pen, a pencil, a piece of paper, whatever you have that you can join in along with me, that would be great. Let me go ahead and I'm going to spotlight. We're going to talk about pictures and we're going to talk about some ways to um, draw them, draw things, create pictures. So I just want to focus on my desktop here. So the slides showed many types of pictures, very finely drawn images, more sketchy, loose things that aren't super detailed, um, a lot of line drawings. tracings. You can use tracing paper to trace a photo and stick that in your book. And we saw photos, the little owl, the clouds, things that you print out on your copy machine and glue it in your book. But it is really great if you can actually draw. And this is where everyone's like, I can't draw. I'm not an artist. I can't do this, but you can. And I'm going to demo that right now. And I want you to follow along with me if you can. Let's set the peas aside for a minute. I want to get out some sprouts, some seedlings. I have these little seedlings here. So I'm going to show you how to make some line drawings, some simple line drawings. And these are quite magical in my opinion because they do many things. Okay? They give you permission to just make a line, and a drawing is a line going for a walk, if you want to quote the artist Paul Klee. A drawing is a line going for a walk. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate with these seedlings. And I'm going to do it twice. Once where you just watch me, and then again quickly, and you can do it along with me. So at the top of this, on this paper, I'm going to draw these seedlings. And what I'm going to do is make a continuous line drawing, and it's going to be called a blind contour drawing. And it's blind because I'm not looking very much at my paper in my hand. I'm only going to look at the subject, the seedlings, okay? So what's happening down here is supposedly out of sight. All right. So I'll demo first and then you can try it with me the second time. So I'm going to look at my seedlings one by one. I'm not going to pick up the pen, and I'm not going to look at my hand or my paper or my pen. I'm going to look at these seedlings. I'm getting to know these seedlings. And by doing that, I'm noticing so many things. Our brains are amazing, right? And if I just stare, I'm going to put it here so you can see what I'm doing. Um, I'm just staring, almost meditating on these green seedlings. And I'm noticing they have these elongated leaves. And I'm noticing they're kind of narrow where they attach to the stem, and they get wider as they go out. And I'm also noticing a lot of chatter in my brain, a lot of judgment, right? Oh my gosh, this is so bad. I can't believe I'm doing this so bad. It's wrong. I'm so embarrassed. That's when you say, okay, no, I am only getting to know this plant. I'm going to shut up all that chatter and get to know this plant, experiencing its shape, kind of the spirit of it, right? I'm not supposed to pick up my pen. And then this one is taller, and I'm going to run out of room. It looks like just two leaves on that one. And then over here, same thing, these little sprouts. And I'm going to keep on doing it. Okay. All right. That was so much fun. I'm going to do it again, and you can do it with me if you'd like. I'm going to flip the page over, and I'm going to do it again. And you're welcome to do this along with me, okay? We're going to make a line drawing of these seedlings. Don't pick up the pen. Take a deep breath. Tell yourself you're just enjoying, noticing. And remember what I said about drawing, how your brain learns and remembers so much more. And this is an exercise to loosen you up and give you the confidence and also the surprise when you realize it kind of looks like what you're seeing. Blind, continuous line. Glance at your paper if you need to, but really try to resist doing so. And as you're noticing and observing and taking in this visual information, your mind kind of starts questioning. It does a lot of judging, right? A lot of judgment going on, but also a lot of questioning. Like, what does this remind you of? Or what are you thinking about? Or what are you curious about? Or what are you noticing? And all of that can be fodder for writing, right? And that's when I think I will mention I'm going to bring this in front. John Muir Laws, there's a website that you should be able to see in the Q&A or the chat, but John Muir Laws has a wonderful, yeah, I should just put it in there, large collection of tutorials and other resources for nature journaling. So write this down. But something I love are his 3 prompts for writing. And these are the things that come up in my brain when I'm drawing. I notice, write what you notice. I wonder, and I am reminded of. I notice that the seedlings on the left have 3 or 4 leaves. The others have 2. Why is this? What are the 2 different plants? On and on and on. You've got this whole realm of information you can further explore with words. Okay, we're going to do another type of drawing. and I'm going to bring in a different subject. We're gonna draw some peas in pod. And this time it's still going to be a line drawing, pretty much a contour that follows along the outline of the peas in the pod. But this time we can look at our paper and our pen. It'll give us a little more precision, perhaps. And we can also pick our pen up and move it. We don't have to make a continuous line. Sometimes I find it honestly easier to just do continuous line. But here with the seedlings, we didn't lift our pen. This time we can. And if we need to look at our paper, we can also do that. So here we go. I'm going to start up here at the cap of the pod. And what I'm doing is I'm drawing just the outline of exactly what I see. I see a shape like that. And then I have another shape over here. Just taking it bit by bit, very slowly. And just drawing what I see. There's no other way to explain it other than just drawing what I see. Not drawing what I think it needs to look like. I'm just making the lines that match the lines I see. Oh, this is fun. I get to make a bigger line, a longer line, right? And each time you do this, you're creating muscle memory, you're learning, you're observing, noticing these little tiny stems that connect the peas to the pod. If I didn't slow down to draw, I probably wouldn't, well, we know that from all the times we've shelled peas, but and they kind of overlap each other a little bit. And then I look closer, there's a little edge to the pod. A little edge, little lip of the pea pod. Maybe some little fibers in there. That's the first time I've drawn pea pods. And as soon as you put a label on it, takes away a lot of the anxiety, right? Look, everyone, it's pea pods. See? Peas in a pod. Okay?
I do have some questions about your materials if you want to answer them, or do you want to wait a little bit?
That would be great. Let's talk about materials.
Yes.
I can start out by saying, I'll just talk very quickly and then take
Okay.
all the questions because that is a big topic. Materials can be very simple and they can be complex. Some of you all are artists probably and have skills and tools you like to use, but if you don't, then the very basics that I can recommend are good art pens. And there is a link on my website, and should you we can share that. But I have a list of basic nature drawing supplies I like to use, and these Micron pens are on the list. Micron pens by Pigma, they're waterproof ink pens. And yeah, should you put my website in the chat? And if you go to the classes tab on my website, there's a supply list for nature drawing. But pencils and pens with permanent ink, even just a ballpoint pen for writing and drawing. Um, and I tend to really lean towards pens because pencils, if you use pencils, you want to erase and you will erase, and it gets to be a real rabbit hole. But just a regular number two pencil and an eraser are handy. Um, Watercolor is too much to go over tonight, but having a small set of watercolor paints can be really fun, even if you just add a little bit of color here and there. That's a great thing to have. And colored pencils. Colored pencils. As far as the journal itself, that's a very, it's a big decision and it's a personal decision. We saw from the slides that there are all sizes of paper that people work on. Some people, just use interesting materials altogether. But I like smoother paper. I don't like expensive journals. I like feeling like I can use up as many pages as I'd like and not feel that it's precious. So a simple, like a spiral bound book, white paper is one of my favorites. And I've got one right here. This is big, but it's on my website, and you can get smaller versions of this mixed media. I just like it because it's heavy enough to add a little watercolor, um, and it's perforated. So you can tear a sheet out if you decide you don't want it in your book. And again, this is one of the largest sizes that they make, but the smaller ones are really nice. Lately, I've been using these really nice Fabriano books, and they're not spiral bound, and they've got very durable covers, and it's thin and it fits in my backpack really nicely. And paper is lovely. And this is one I've been drawing and writing a lot of trees. I've been keeping it, mostly for like trees only. Sometimes I'll throw in other things. So
And what,
what questions are there about supplies? Because there usually are a lot of
yeah,
questions.
what type of ink pen do you recommend when you use watercolor?
These micron pens,
Okay.
yeah, the brand is Pigma, Pigma, Micron, and it's India ink. And there are others on the market. The Faber-Castell pens are good too, but you just want to make sure it says waterproof if you're going to add watercolor to it.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, test it. Um, Pitt artist pens are also waterproof, but you want to make sure it really is waterproof.
And then can you give us a list of suggested tools slash journals slash materials that you like and would be easy to start with if we are not used to drawing? Kind of feel like you did that, but is
Yeah,
there a
just
particular list on your website?
There is
Okay.
the website where my classes are, the section of my website with classes. If you look through that, there's a picture, and then a listing of specific things. But don't get something precious. Don't buy a fancy watercolor journal, because watercolor paper is more expensive and heavier, and it's also textured to hold watercolor.
Hmm.
That makes it harder to freely draw and write. So, smooth, white, unlined paper.
Okay.
And even like Fred Meyer has pretty good notebooks that are spiral bound in different sizes, that are in their art section or their school supply section, maybe, and and sometimes even these pens, but the micron pens, that's really all you need.
Simple is the best.
Well, simple is the best when you're starting out. Simply simple. Just enough simplicity all around, just enough writing and drawing, the simplest supplies, because you can always build on them. You can always decide, I want to add to this kit. Maybe I want to buy a set of color pencils. Maybe I want to buy some watercolors. But to start, get some smooth white paper and some good pens.
All right. And you answered the last question already. What kind of pen are you using? You showed it to us. So,
Yeah. So right now I've kind of done a little bit of a garden journal page. I want to talk a little bit about, I think building a habit is the hardest thing. I mentioned that already. And I think if you can have an intention, if you can think, first of all, get your journal, have some good pens, pencil and an eraser, and think about your intention for journaling. And you don't have to lock yourself into something rigid. Again, we want to keep this simple and manageable, because if it's too complicated, it's going to be hard to keep up with. So, simplicity, also personal. What is most important to you? And we are so programmed or trained from such an early age to perform, to get the good grade, to do it the right way. But this is one of the reasons I show these very loose and free formy drawings is you can play, you can be playful and curious in this space. And Shuju has just put a direct link to my supply list. Thank you. Um, so another way to make it easier, I personally think larger paper is easier, and that's personal. It's just the way I feel comfortable drawing. You don't have to go big. You can get a smaller pocket-sized journal and maybe just have something on each page. But again, intention. Um, had a couple more pages, like think a helpful thing to do when you're thinking about not only your journal and the intention of that, but the intention of your page. So here I kind of got started with the seedlings and then what happens when they grow. Um, there could be more words, numbers, and data added to this. The date, crucial. Regardless of what you're doing, get in the habit of dating everything. Small in the corner, small down the side, but a full date with the month, the date, and the year. I think that's like the most important bit of data you can um, be happy you've included, because when you go back and look at this, it'll place it in time and you'll recall a lot about that time. um, Date and place. And then we saw in some of those slides the weather conditions and all that. I'm not a big data person or a big yeah, number person, but gardening is full of numbers and data, and that might be something that you could include as part of your intentionality. So if you want that to be a part of your journal, um, create a place on each page where you have a specific set of um, numbers that, maybe it's day 28 of the growing season, or maybe it's a specific place in the garden. But you can make that a consistent element of your pages. And if you like to draw and doodle, you can have a lot of fun with that. So we talked about, breaking things down into smaller pieces. I think I showed you, the bleeding heart. Don't try to capture it all. Whatever you're doing, don't try to capture it all. It will be overwhelming. Take a moment to think about the part that you really want to capture as far as drawing. And then you can write and write and write about all the stuff you're not able to draw. And that's what this is like. That bleeding heart plant had so many interesting leaves and the hearts and then the twiggy little branches that they hung off of. Um, these are little items picked up just out on the sidewalk during a morning walk, and they're just kind of free form scattered around the page. The date again, the conditions, and using grids. Using grids is a really great way to make your page manageable. And you can use, since we have a few minutes, I can go into supplies more. I keep my supplies in little zipper bags and have everything in a little bag. If it doesn't fit in the bag, it's too much. So one of the things, like this is part of a cardboard cereal box that I've cut. And it's a great way to create little frames. Can trace around three sides of it and then three sides more for a long box. You don't, it's just a nice square with some straight edge to it. And it's actually Pop-Tarts, so confession time, right? I bought my kids Pop-Tarts a long time ago. But you have your intention for your page, and then you can block it out ahead of time to remind yourself and give yourself guardrails or a framework for aspects, right? So with the peas, for instance, you could draw your little pea pods over here. You could have a box for text. And I don't know, maybe you want to attempt to draw more of the plant, or maybe you want to draw a bird's eye view of your garden. And I'm just thinking vegetable gardening right now. I know there's just so many types of gardening, but maybe you want to draw um, part of the garden plot and where the peas were planted. They're planted in rows typically, so I'm like being a little wacky with this, but you get the idea. This would be a really pretty garden pathway here with some gravel. So we focused a lot on line drawing tonight. Um, you can do little dots like I'm doing, tapping in dots. Dots and lines can do a lot to bring um, a simple shape into form. See that? Tapping along these line drawings and making these little dots. Kind of cool. It adds dimension, right? If you want something to look more rounded, just make some dots on one side of it. That's called stippling.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's so cool, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's time consuming, so I'm not going to sit
Mm-hmm.
here and do that all night,
No.
but you get the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So simplicity and then you can even take a big fat marker and block out areas around shapes you've drawn. So there's a lot you can do with just pen and paper. Um, anyway, I
I do have some more
was
questions
simple
for you
drawing
as
and then
we end up.
all this blacked out
Yeah, that's cool. How long have you been drawing? That was one of the
since I was a
questions.
kid.
Ah, okay. This is a long time thing you've been doing.
Well, I've never really had yeah, just always drawing and making marks. And you all can do this too. It's honestly, I want you all to give yourself a pat on the back for trying and go easy on yourself. Really catch the judgment.
Hmm. I had fun. I'm
And
going to show my pea pods.
I would love to see your pea
There it
pod.
is. Is it showing up?
I'll highlight it, Cynthia. Let's
Oh, that'll do
see.
it.
Look at that.
I did it.
I love it. See how
I
happy that
enjoyed
made
doing it.
you?
Yes, it made me really happy.
Great. See, let's
That's
see.
what does it. I'm inspired. I'm gonna get a notebook and try it. I thought I have to try it with you, and then I might be more inspired, and it really worked.
Yeah, great. That just gives me chills or
Good,
goosebumps.
good.
And if you just have lined notebook paper, do that. Just do
Yep.
something. You're training your brain and your eyes and your hand. And there's never any loss in doing that, right?
Yeah, wonderful. Somebody asked, are there any tips to deal with watercolor in the field? Specifically, how do I carry the notebook home if the pages are still wet? There's a
I
good
rarely do
practical
a lot of
question.
water. Yeah, I rarely do a lot of watercoloring in the field.
Hmm.
Um, I you can shut, you can shut the pages when it's damp, put a piece of paper towel as a blotter. But yeah, yeah, it is, using a little watercolor on location is good because you can capture the color, but Especially if it's damp out. Don't sit and wait for it to dry. Just put a piece of paper, just put a piece of paper in and shut it or turn to the next page.
Okay. And do you have different journals for different subjects?
I do. I do. A lot of my journals right now are teaching, so they're just kind of a hodgepodge. But for my personal journals, I have these small moleskin journals, which are pricey and very nice. And they have a pocket in the back, so I can collect leaves and things. So I do like this little book is nice because the paper is as smooth as silk.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just easily draw across it. And your pen just glides. So I pick up a lot of leaves and draw and write in this book. Um, Primarily leaves and some trees.
And
And
you,
yeah, I showed you the larger ones. These are
okay.
I'm really hooked on these Fabriano. It says Eco Qua. It's
Hmm.
Fabriano. Um, and these I got at Blick. The Blick Art Supply Store in Portland is amazing. And I just they're so light, but they're large and they open flat and pen just glides across them. So this is my tree journal. I had a few random sketches in there, but um Fabriano, the Eco Quab line.
Okay. And do you work right out there in the garden or take photos to work off of later?
I draw, so I don't do a lot of gardening journal at this stage in my life. I have in the past. I do a lot of work in Hoyt Arboretum. I teach classes at Hoyt and I draw a lot of trees and leaves in parks. And that's why I don't do a lot of watercoloring is because I'm mostly focused on capturing
Hmm.
when I'm out in real nature. Um, for gardening, when I did like some of the slides were my gardening images, like the witch hazel and all of that, that is from a combination of photos and then actually being in front of the plant. Photos are fine to draw and paint from. Yeah. You can
Well, the
use your,
pea pod was great.
yeah, that was I would say now in the dead of winter when we're inside more, play with photos, get photos and print them out and put them next to your paper like you saw me do.
Hmm.
And and do that. You know, these were real items. Pick up things outside and bring them in and have them, whatever you're looking at, have it next to your drawing area so that your eyes are, so everything is right in the same plane, photo and the drawing.
Hmm. Very nice. I want to give Shane and Shuju a chance to ask. For whatever reason, we can't put questions in Q&A. So Shane or Shuju, did you have questions?
No, I'm just enjoying other people's questions myself.
All right. Shuju?
No questions, but I want to really show my appreciation for your teaching style. Just, your suggestion that we slow down and observe, and your teaching style reflects that so much that that we can really take it in. So yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of appreciation for your for what you're presenting tonight. So thank you.
Yes, several people are putting thank yous in the Q&A.
Thank you. An hour goes by so fast, and there are
Mhm.
classes on my
Hello? Hello?
throughout the metro area. So you can sign up for my newsletter if you want, also on my website. There's a contact bar, and you can sign up for my newsletter if you want to hear from me every quarter with what I'm teaching and where.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I do feel like an hour was only
It
just a
zoomed by.
touching of the topic, but it was fun to draw the pea pods. It was really interesting to draw the seedlings, and I appreciate you taking a large subject and giving us a taste of it in just this hour.
Thank you. Thank you for the time, and you all have a wonderful holiday season, winter season, and start dreaming about those amazing gardens you're going to create.